Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I had a feeling we would have a full house this afternoon for talk about the budget. About 7 or 8 minutes ago, I was a little bit worried. I thought, maybe nobody here really cares that much about the budget and how much is being spent and how much is being collected. Now I know. All right, well, it's good to have everybody here this afternoon. This is a very important meeting. Most of it will be involving a presentation of the budget, some explanation that goes along with that, and certainly some time for questions. At the end of the meeting today, I'll be giving a few updates of stuff that's going on around the building and catching you up on that. But with no further ado, I'm going to have Rich come up and get a little bit more of a introduction about the budget, and then I will get right into it.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is a busy week for the cooperative. Just remember, those of you who are new and those of you maybe who aren't so new, on Friday, a big event here, the annual holiday fair is coming on Friday, so don't miss that. Come down and support the folks, your friends and your neighbors. It'll be a great event on Friday. Also, of course, the transition in leadership in the dining room. I just want to remind you, my note to you last week, I told you to stop by and to visit, say hi to Ben. And if you'd like to bring a card for him. The committee that's working on that has got a whole sack full of cards, and they want to present this to him tomorrow at this last gathering they're going to have with him on the meeting. So if you want to get a card in for Ben, please do that by tonight, and we'll get it in the packet for tomorrow. That's really important. Did you notice on the board, as through yesterday noon, we had already 110 gifts for Veep. 110 gifts. That's just terrific. That's already a third of the community have responded to the Men of York's request to feed our neighbors through using our funds to help feed them through Veep. So we'll continue to monitor which floor is doing the best, and you can see that at the post office area. And then finally, the annual Employee Christmas and Holiday Fund letter will be coming out. Those of you who are new here need to know that each year, members of the cooperative, something established long ago in a tradition here, have taken it upon themselves to gather a cash gift that we can present to our employees, both in the dining room and our employees here throughout the building, and a cash gift at the holiday time. And much appreciated by that. I know that's more than, somebody said to me, well, I don't want to do this. Well, you don't have to do anything. No one forces you to do anything. The Veep gift is an opportunity, and the employee gift is an opportunity. I encourage you to be generous and help our neighbors and to help our staff as well. So that'll be coming out. A couple of Sunday nights ago at the board forum, I began talking about the annual budgeting process. But as in most years, and most things that have gone on this year, this is a key year of transition and change for what we're about here at the community. We're changing a process that will shift from old patterns of operations to a new and better process that will put the cooperative on a far firmer and more accurate footing moving forward. I shared a column and a piece by Laurie Sturdivant, columnist for the Star Tribune, reflecting on a decision 20 years ago in the city of St. Paul not to raise taxes for the streets. That turned out to be a fiasco, and there were badly felt consequences for the infrastructure. But she wrote, it also dragged the city down. By not taking care of what they needed to take care of and postponing things, it dragged them down psychologically, socially, and economically. I said, to the attenders 2 weeks ago that the cooperative would be in that same position if we ignore or set aside pressing short and long-term needs that face the cooperative. So the budget we're going to review together today is a vital one for this year, but as we make a major transition in how we operate fiscally in this community. Here are some key thoughts from one of our members as we started to approach the budgeting process. First, it's imperative that we continually invest in the upkeep of our facilities and our grounds and maintain excellence in how this cooperative operates. Secondly, for approximately 20 years, the cooperative did not invest adequately in our facilities, in our grounds, and in our employees. And we've had to make some real adjustments for that to honor the work of those employees and to be realistic about the job market that's facing the community in which we hire people. 7500, of course, faces major competition for other senior living communities. That's dramatically changed in the last 5 years from what it was 40-some years ago when this cooperative began. They're all over. They're springing up left and right, and they are our competitors for the future of this place. They are the folks, the folks who are looking to come here are the people who are going to pay our shares and our investments. We've got to maintain those. So we've got to realize there's competition out there. Since 2020, the cooperative has invested in having a full reserve study conducted. That is, taking a look at things that go all the way out 25 and 30 years. And we've adopted a plan to invest in facilities and grounds on a regular basis. We don't want to have to go in and have special assessments. We were able to, by just some key planning on folks in this community, to renegotiate that mortgage with the mortgage bank to help us do the windows and put the payments into that for all the folks who will live here, including us, for the next few years. But we also have to remember, in about 8 years, that balloon mortgage will come to an end, and we're going to be out in the marketplace competition for a brand new mortgage as well. And finally, in 2023, the cooperative made the decision to invest in its staff, to bring those who were below grade and worked here for a long time up to good salaries, and to provide a professionally run HR program that we could not provide, but that our partner, our managing partner, Ebenezer Management Systems, could do on our behalf. So the final thought was, the cooperative then for 2024 will adopt an annual budget and plan for reserves that will be robust and will continue the turnaround that we've started to make over these last few years. Mitch worked hard on this. We applaud him for his work, getting folks from the staff, from the committees, from members, from the board, from management people, to think about how we're going to do this. We did not take this work lightly. And by the way, just a reminder, all of us on the board will pay the same fees as you will pay. We're working on our own bottom line, not just yours, when we do this and when we bring this budget apart. In the process, we started listening to all the requests and needs, and we were already above a 10% member increase for next year, and everybody gulped and said, no, we got to come down from that. It was really a well done, and we worked hard at this. We were able, and we're going to present a budget to you that will represent an 8% increase in the member fees for this next year. We believe that reducing them any further would give the wrong messages. And here's the messages that would send. It would reduce important spending below what we think is required, or more importantly, what is needed for increased contributions to both our operating reserves and our long-term reserves. If we do not fund adequately, it will also send a message to all the members in this community that we do not have to step up and do our job to pay for all the amenities and the good things that go on here, that somebody else will do that for us. Well, friends, we all own this together, and there's nobody else who's going to do it but us, of course. And finally, if we do not step up to the plate and adequately do what needs to be done, we send a message to prospective members that the cooperative is satisfied with the status quo, and maybe even some deterioration in our buildings and grounds. And I've heard so many people say to me, Rich, we got to attend to those things. And it also says we're unwilling to invest adequately in our future. The board did not make this difficult decision in a vacuum. We understand the challenges before all of us and many of you, because people have talked to me about this. We pledge to do the best work we can to monitor and use our best judgments as we work with management, with Mitch, for the good of the cooperative and for the good of you members. So with that said, Mitch, let us see what we're up to for 2024.
Well, thank you, Rich, and I appreciate those words. As I was sitting down here in the front row and taking all of that in, I was just thinking that the budget preparation and the adoption of a budget for a cooperative results in two things. It results in everybody in the cooperative being in agreement with it, and everybody in the cooperative being happy about it. Said no one ever. And with that, I would like to go on with the budget process, or with the presentation of the budget. I began working on the budget for your property in June of this year. It takes a long time to do this. I had as a foundation the workbook that we at Ebenezer Management Services uses for the preparation of a budget. I had to take that and I had to tear it apart and I had to put it back together to have it where I thought it would best be of use for putting together the budget for your cooperative. And so the budgeting process, it's not necessarily limited to the months of August through November, which are the months that myself, as well as the different people and groups that Rich mentioned, are involved with it. My process really started a couple months earlier, but in one sense, the process of putting together a budget begins on the very first day of the current fiscal year for the next fiscal year. And that happens in different ways because as we go throughout the year and we're doing spending and when we're taking care of all of the bills that are to be paid and the receipts that come in that go into the bank for the cooperative, we are needing to code those properly so that the cooperative has meaningful financial statements. And so when we're working in putting together the budget, we're able to look at those financial statements and say, how has the cooperative been spending money? How much money has been coming in each of these different areas, from member fees, from other charges, so that we have a good idea of what the record of the cooperative is. Because as you go by year in putting together a budget, more and more of it, if you have a good foundation and you're doing it correctly each year, more and more of the process becomes historical and not needing to recreate the wheel every year when it comes to putting the numbers down on the spreadsheet. So it begins with management, with me taking the spreadsheet that I have, or it's actually a workbook of many spreadsheets that work together, and working with committees, members through committees, because when I came, and I don't know exactly the history of how the budgets were put together in the past, and I assume that there was involvement from committees and members, but I wanted to make sure that if that tradition was here or that practice was here, that it continued, because this is you are all members, co-owners of this property, of this cooperative, of the building and the grounds. And so this is your budget that we have been working to put together for you. So I want member involvement. I want committee ownership. I want it eventually to come to the finance committee, which it did, and we had a lively discussion when it came to the finance committee. Ultimately, it comes to the board of directors for further discussion, further, shall we say, twisting of the numbers or cutting or adding of the numbers, saying this is what works, this is what we want for our budget. And it goes ultimately for the benefit of the 7,500 York membership. Budget preparation considerations, there are many. There are contract negotiations that the maintenance side of our team is working on, determining what material and labor costs are for a coming year, evaluating limited contracts versus having long-term contracts with vendors that we have successful working relationships with, any bid requirements that we might have to meet cooperative satisfactions, determining what are fixed costs, numbers that really can't change, versus discretionary costs. And those are numbers that are more pliable and have some working room when you're working with any budget items that are discretionary. What are member expectations, governing documents requirements, and limiting the liability, increasing safety, and protecting the assets of the cooperative. Going back to member expectations, just one thing that I want to comment about that. I have worked with many different cooperatives as a regional manager, regional property manager in past years. It has always been my responsibility for the final preparation of the budget and guiding that process with a cooperative. And all of my cooperatives had HUD-insured mortgages, as yours had in the past. And often I would go into either a finance committee meeting or some sort of initial meeting about the preparation of a budget, and I would be told, we want a 2% increase in member fees this year. We want a 1 to 1.5% increase in member fees this year. Or we want a 3.5% increase in member fees this year, without having any discussion at all about what the needs of the cooperative are and the needs of the cooperative going forward. And so when it comes to figuring out what the member fees will be, that is the very last number that I deal with. I have to focus on what it costs, because this is a business. This is an $8 million a year business. And it takes a lot to make it run. It takes a lot to keep the building functioning properly. And you have to know what it takes to meet your needs through your expenses before you can even start talking about the revenue side. Well, here's the income. This is what the different fees or charges are that will be for the members of the cooperative this year. At the very top, as Rich mentioned earlier, there's an 8% increase in the member fees. I know that seems like a lot. It is a lot. I don't take that frivolously, but it is necessary. There are rental incomes that the cooperative has. York Gardens pays almost $170,000 for their lease per year. The salon is projected to pay over $6,000 for their space. Some of that is considered amenity as well. The garage and parking lot fees, $2,250,000, 227, almost $228,000, and there are increases in the fees for that. There is a $10 a month increase in the fee for the garage stalls, going up from 70, is it 70, right? It's 70, it's going up to 80. The lot spaces are going up from 10 to 12. Other fees, maintenance service orders. So we don't focus on this because until just recently and even going forward for a while, we don't have enough staffing or enough hours from our staffing to do personal service orders for members. But when they do, that's at a rate of $50 an hour. Previously, it was $30 an hour. Guest room fees are going up from $75 a night to $85 a night. And the cot rentals are going up a little bit as well. And so the guest room fees and cot fees, the cooperative is projected to take in about $62,000. The York Room, revenue of $886,900. So you say, boy, that's a big number. Well, it is a big number, and most of that comes from the fees that you pay as members, $110 a month this year, going up just a little bit to $115 a month per member or per resident living here. And you can see the breakdown under that for what comes in from the member fees, the resident meals, guest meals, and other meals. The Stop and Shop is projected to bring in $55,000 plus. Other fees and charges, almost $5,000. About a little more than half of that are resale fees. So when members sell their share, there is a percentage that is paid by the outgoing member that is called a resale fee, and that comes into the cooperative. There are second person charges totaling almost $67,000. That is going up as well by $10 a month. So those are all of the revenues. You can see right here, just short of $8 million. So I have for you here all of the groupings of expenses for the cooperative. The York Room expenses through Morrison, and every line item where they spend money. Most of that is labor. It's to have the servers, the cooks, the chef here. The second largest one there are all of the food costs, almost $169,000. The contracted services to Morrison, almost $68,000. That is the money that we pay to Morrison for them to be here as a contracted service. Most of that would be their profit as a company to have their business here. And you can see the other smaller costs, the $26,000 almost for supplies, cleaning supplies and office supplies. That's actually broken down into those three categories there, but put together for space, that's also one of the larger numbers. So a total of $886,900 comes in as revenue for the York Room. Most of that, well, in a sense, all of that comes from the members, either through your monthly fee or through the revenue from you using the York Room and buying meals. The Stop and Shop, $55,000, $55,440. Most of the expenses there are for the groceries. Maintenance, I had to kind of squish everything together here because this is one of the largest groupings of expenses for the cooperative. There are some big numbers here. There's big numbers all the way up and down this spreadsheet. Most of it is for refurbishing units. So every time the cooperative has a turnover of a unit, that unit is being refurbished. Some of it is cooperative cost, some of it is buyer cost. So if a buyer is coming in and they are wanting to upgrade what would be standard for a unit, then the member pays that above and beyond cost. But it still is quite a significant cost for the cooperative to keep those units up to date. Non-capital furniture and equipment, that seems like a big number. Most of that is for replacing appliances in units, replacing toilets in units. Grounds contract, that is everything to do with taking care of the outside grounds during the warmer months. So the mowing of the grass, the tree work, getting the leaves off of the property, all of those sorts of things. HVAC repair and maintenance. The cooperative has a very old, very dated HVAC system. HVAC, heating, venting, air conditioning. And in this coming year, it's not reflected in this budget here, but in the coming year, if any of you have noticed the very warm hallways, or perhaps the very cool or cold hallways, that is because our rooftop units, it's the units that sit up on top of the roof right next to all of the 4 big square boxes that are for the elevators up there, and it circulates the air. It takes in air, it circulates it over through the building where fans blow over it and out into the common areas. And those are not functioning properly. We are trying to keep them going. The reason it's so warm or so cold sometimes is that they're not functioning properly. We will be replacing those 2 of those this coming year for more than $250,000. That is coming out of the reserves, not from the operating budget. But the reason this number here is so high is there is so much that goes into keeping this system operating properly so that you are comfortable with the temperature in your unit, so you are comfortable with the temperature in the common areas. And so we have a contract for maintenance that's somewhere between $35,000 and $40,000 a year, just for a company to come in and do all of the checks and make sure that the preventative maintenance is being done. But there are also a lot of repairs, and the repairs are costly when this system needs to be repaired. Elevator maintenance, we have a contract for that as well. Building repair and maintenance, anything from vacuuming, or not vacuuming, but cleaning the carpet, cleaning the windows outside, cleaning the garage floor, jetting out the drains to make sure everything is working properly there. Maintenance supplies, $80,000. That's all of the supplies that go into keeping the building maintained that our own maintenance techs use, just all of the parts and pieces that they would use. So in the maintenance area, it's more than $1 million that's budgeted to take care of the cooperative this coming year. Marketing. So this is what the marketing department, primarily Barb, Mary Beth, the marketing committee, would be spending to keep the cooperative marketed to buyers, keeping people interested in coming in and getting on the wait list, doing certain events with them to keep marketing the property. Because if we're not getting new people in, then when units come up for sale or shares come up for sale, they might be sitting there for a long time where the members continue to pay because there's not enough interest in buying a share. Transportation, $12,000 to keep the bus moving and repaired and maintained. Administration. So these are all the costs that are involved on our side, on the office side, of keeping the cooperative going. You'll see management fees, $89,000, almost $90,000. That is the management fee that the cooperative has with Ebenezer Management Services for all of the services that Ebenezer provides apart from the salaries. So that would be all of the accounting that goes on behind the scenes, all of the HR that goes on behind the scenes, training for the staff, all of the payroll expenses for the payroll department. A lot of work goes on behind the scenes with the management company of Ebenezer to keep the cooperative running. Down at the bottom, you'll see a couple of bigger numbers. One is committee expense, and that number was maintained from this past year. About 2/3 of that are for the RAC committees to be able to fund the different activities that they have. The service charges and late fees, those aren't really service charges and they aren't really late fees. What they are investment fees and bank fees. So the cooperative has millions of dollars spread among many different accounts and investments. And with the investments, we pay an investment advisor about $10,000 quarterly to manage the investments of the cooperative. And then the funds that are in the bank, we get charged about $400 a month bank fees just because of all of the accounts that are being used. If you go back up to the middle of the page there and you see office supplies, I would say probably that most of that is paper. It's all of the paper that it takes to keep the membership informed about things that are going on, to keep the newsletter going out, to keep all of the menus going out, everything paper. The majority of that is paper. Leasing contracts, we got to run the paper through something, and that is for the copier. Very expensive to keep that going. Utilities, another big grouping. Actually, these were increased just a little bit this coming year. If there's one area where the expenses have been at or below what has been budgeted, it has been utilities overall. And that is always welcome, to be spending less on something that was budgeted. And I hope that that continues to be true this coming year. So these current budget numbers are based off of what was actual for this year. They're not based off of the budget numbers for last year and then a percentage on top of that, but there were small increases going off of the actual numbers for this year. Taxes and insurance. The couple of big numbers here. One is the property insurance, almost $206,000. That went up about 15%, a little bit more than 15% this year. It is one of the things that most cooperatives are really struggling to deal with because of the high increases of insurance for multi-housing facilities, not only cooperatives, but other types of multi-housing facilities. And if the cooperative here is fortunate in one respect, it's that we don't have a wood shingled roof, because that and either vinyl siding or whatever. So it works to the cooperative's advantage to have a brick sided building and a flat roof that is covered with gravel, because this roof is not going to blow off. And one of the reasons that insurances have been going up is because of the recent spate of strong storms that have hit, not so much in Minnesota, somewhat, but not so much, but in Iowa and further south in the United States. Real estate tax, we projected that to go up about 6.5% this coming year. Salaries, taxes, and benefits. This has gone up somewhat significantly. The final numbers on this are really to be determined yet, especially on the benefits side, because as we have done the transition of York employees to Ebenezer, all of the transitioned employees have made their benefits choices. I don't have access to all of those quite yet to know what the actual numbers are. I did hear from one employee said, wow, I'm really surprised. What I need to pay for my benefits went down for the same thing. I don't know if that's happening across the board, and I won't know probably until January yet what those actual numbers are. But as Rich mentioned earlier, when I came, I saw a situation where the salaries for particularly, exclusively really, the York employees at that time were not at a level where they should be, where they needed to be fair and to be competitive. And I worked with the board to put together a proposal that was accepted by the board to increase as much as possible the salaries of mostly our line employees, to get something that was fair and within what the salary range of somebody working in that type of position should be. Non-operating expenses. These are fixed. Well, the first one and the third one are fixed expenses. That is per the mortgage that the cooperative has with National Cooperative Bank. The second one, the security deposit interest expense, is what is paid out to those on the wait list for having their money sit in the cooperative's accounts. And then the last one, very, very important. So when I talked earlier about the 2 rooftop units being replaced next year to the tune of $250,000, $260,000, something like that, maybe a little bit more by that time. That money comes from the reserves. And the way that the cooperative gets money into your reserve accounts is by budgeting for it. So you actually budget, or we budget, almost $1.2 million to be deposited into your reserves. So that's not actually an expense right now, but it does become an expense when we have to spend it on those rooftop units. When we spend it on refurbishing the exercise room, when we spend it on repairing the water intrusion into the link area and redo the North Plaza. It is expensed when we do the lobby and balcony renovation. So all of those bigger projects, capital type projects, the funds come out of the reserves that you have been funding by putting money into the reserves every month. Very important to be funding your reserves because it assures as much as possible that those funds are there when the cooperative needs them to do these big projects. And so you don't get out 5 years or 10 years and 20 years and you have a $500,000 project or $1 million project and you're looking at the accounts of the cooperative and saying, we don't have enough. By funding your reserves, you assure as much as possible that you have the funds for these projects when they come up and when they are scheduled. There is the reserve study that has been done. That's where this number comes from. That's the recommended number from reserve advisors that did the reserve study that takes all of the replacement items for the cooperative, replacement of the roof, replacement of flooring, doing renovations, doing major repairs, putting them in a schedule out over 30 years, and making sure that the funds are there for them when they are more or less scheduled. There is some flexibility to that, of course. And by putting money into your reserves, it keeps the cooperative from having to do special assessments. How many have ever experienced a special assessment in a place where you have lived prior? Everybody like that? No. It takes commitment to plan for these types of projects in advance so you don't have special assessments. That's all of the expenses. This just breaks it down into what are the total for the operating expenses, $5.9 million, the non-operating expenses and deposits into your reserves, a little bit more than $2 million for a total expense number of $8 million. This is what it looks like on a pie chart. The biggest area of expense are those non-operating expenses that have to do with your mortgage debt as well as putting money into your reserves. Next after that is the investment, the necessary investment that the cooperative is making into staff, having staff here through the management company and paying their salaries, payroll taxes, and benefits. And then the next biggest one after that, almost a tie between maintenance and the York Room, 11% for the York Room, 12% for maintenance, and also utilities, right there at 11%. Following that at 9% are taxes and insurance, and administration at 4%, and then you have 4 very small categories of the Stop and Shop, housekeeping and laundry, marketing and transportation that are all less than 1% of the pie. What are some key takeaways for the 2024 budget? You're funding the replacement reserves as advised by Mitch and reserve advisors. It's one thing that I very strongly advise. It is something that is of the highest importance, is to keep money going into your reserves so that you don't end up with a situation where you don't have the money to do a roof, to do a renovation, to do a major repair, and you end up with a special assessment. This budget is investing in building, property, and staff. Insurance costs are increasing significantly. And one thing that we're doing is we are avoiding deferred property maintenance. Are we totally avoiding deferred property maintenance? No, we are not. But we are doing the best that we can. So as Rich mentioned earlier, this budget started at 10.4%. And there wasn't a large appetite for having a member increase in the double digits. And so there were some things that were taken out of the budget. I wouldn't say cut, I would say they are deferred. There are things such as, what were some of the things? Repainting all of the light poles for the parking areas. There was a significant amount of money taken out for landscaping of the property. There was a big chunk of money, $100,000 actually, that was taken out of the operating budget, but is being transferred to the reserves to pay for pipe replacements at the garage level. It's very expensive to do that. And there were a few other smaller things that were taken out. Not cut entirely, they're not disappearing. Those things, aside from the $100,000 for pipes that are coming from reserves, but the other things will show up in next year's budget because they are being deferred. But it's a relatively small number of things that are being deferred and things that are not critical to the proper function of the building that are being deferred. We're not taking out of the budget money that's needed to repair the HVAC system. We're not taking money out that is required for the security of the building. We're not taking money out that's required for the critical upkeep of the building, but some of the less critical things are being deferred until the next budget. A couple of quotes. One from George Washington. Who doesn't love George Washington? But it's very appropriate when doing any budget, especially a cooperative budget. We must consult our means rather than our wishes. We don't get everything that we wish for in a budget. And one from Dave Ramsey. I have a lot of respect for that guy. A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. And with that, that is the end of the budget presentation. And I would like to let you know, I saw some people taking pictures or maybe notes out there. If anybody wants a copy of the budget, it comes in this format. It is a summary of all of the different bigger categories that I had up here, and then each line item that falls within that category. So anybody who would like a copy of the budget, they will be available in the office from Andrea. Right now I have just 10 copies there. I have no idea how many people are interested to have a copy of this, but if you go today and you run out, come back tomorrow and we'll have more printed, because you as members should have a copy of the budget of the cooperative. I would like to do a Yeah, I'm going to do one quick, need something a little less heavy here, so I'm going to do a quiz question. In the current York Times, there is an offering that has been made about if you want to, if you're not using your garage parking stall and you want to give it up, how much are you going to be paid by the cooperative if you want to give up your garage parking stall? And let me call on somebody that I've never taken a question from you. How much? $300. And I'll give you a bonus if you can tell me what the current deadline is for that.
December 31st.
There is your prize. And here's your additional for that. I got a couple more questions I'll do at the end, but I do want to bring to your attention a few announcements, and then we're going to take questions on the budget or questions on any of these few items that I have here, and we'll go through them pretty quickly. On the windows, broken record, we are almost done, but we are almost done than we were last month. And so it really is getting close. But there's still a bit of a punch list for WL Hall to take care of. And then Michael and a carpenter came in and did a survey of 110 windows here to see if the locking mechanism in them, if they were working properly. And we came up with about a 4 to 5% failure rate on those. It could have been worse. It could have been better. But we are addressing that and how to get those replaced. There is money available from the manufacturer of those locking mechanisms, and we are trying to get that funding to come to the cooperative so that we can do the work cheaper and on a more timely basis than WL Hall would be able to do the work. But those will get replaced. On the North Plaza and Link, the board did approve a contract with the engineering firm Lurch Bates and destructive investigation. That means digging holes through the concrete will be happening soon, even this week perhaps. And just want to let you know that the one apple tree that is closest to the North Plaza, so it's over on the right side, as you start to walk down that path, that apple tree is going to be lost in this process. It's going to be lost in this process of needing to make a hole to find out what is going wrong down there. But even if it hadn't been lost now, it would have been lost in the repair process of the entire link. The boiler room, work will begin soon to fix the water intrusion into the boiler room at the north end of the building on the east side. So the top of the H over there, that exterior wall where pipes run from the boiler room out to the cooling towers, that's correct. There is water when it rains heavily pouring into the boiler room, all over electrical equipment. There's an emergency type repair, and that is happening tomorrow.
Anybody living on the north side, it's going to be noisy for a little bit.
It will be noisy for a little bit on the north side of that building over there. And also as they're doing some destructive investigation. East elevator lobbies. This question comes up. I don't think I'll have any questions after this, but that work is starting tomorrow. Tomorrow morning to close those walls up. And once they are closed up, they will be repainted. And at some point in the not too distant future, there will be some monitoring devices that will be placed inside, decoratively placed, inside those walls to monitor for moisture, condensation, to make sure that the same kind of thing does not happen again, or if it starts to happen again, we know where it's happening and why it's happening. You've probably seen some coolers and freezers sitting askance in the York room, some down at the garage level. That's because the entire walk-in cooler freezer was torn out because it had been leaking. It was basically in a state of destruction, and so that has all been torn out. The food had to go somewhere. It went into all those freezers and coolers. And today they did professional cleaning on the floor of those two areas. And then tomorrow morning,
Tomorrow morning is a busy day.
the reconstruction of the walk-in cooler and freezer will be starting, and it will take probably 2 to 5 working days for that to be completed, including all the reconnection of the electrical, the sprinklers, the condensers, and so forth. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the varying temperatures in the hallways, it is due to equipment that is failing, but we are keeping it limping along. And when the rooftop units are replaced next year, we shouldn't be experiencing that anymore. The York room will be open for Thanksgiving dinner, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. I've seen the menus. They look absolutely great. Get your reservations in and enjoy that meal. And now it is time to have questions for the budget or anything else. And we have one over on the left side over there, Rich, behind the post.
All right, beyond
There
that,
we go.
start here, I'll work this way. Where are we at? You got my way
I'm
back?
one. Thank you. I know, I'm new, so I don't know the whole picture. Do we own the property where this nursing home is at over here, called York Place?
York Gardens,
Yes.
we own the property. They lease the property from
So you
us.
lease it for how much a year?
Oh, I closed it here, but I can look.
160, 170,000, something like that? 170.
Yeah.
And how
some-
long
yeah.
has that been the same over a period of years? Because it's very expensive property in this area. What is the,
It's by contract, and the rate that it's at, the rate that it's at for this coming year is, we're about 6 months into that. So
So-
it goes in 5-year spans. We have
so you're going to
another,
increase their percentage of rent that they owe, is that correct?
it goes according to CPI, the increase, Consumer Price Index.
So it may increase, you say, because we're going
It-
to have increase in our rent. Do they have increase in their rent? That's the
Yes,
basic question.
It increased significantly this time.
Thank you.
Stand up, Nan.
I'm sorry first for my probably stupid question.
There are no stupid questions.
I do not understand very much about balance sheets, but I very appreciate that. It seems that we are living on paychecks, because our income coming from the residents for operating to maintain the property. And there is a big chunk that we would like to spend on the projects for the future, and many projects that you
What
mentioned
type of
that
projects?
came from the reserve funds. But apparently, that we in your budget, I did not see the item that is in the income screen that comes from the interest that we gain from the investment of reserve funds when it was sitting there. And when you show at the end the big pie of the reserve funds is almost 1/4 of the whole thing. of the 8 million. So I wonder, would we be better off if in your budget planning or whatever, you included the interest that come in from the reserve funds before we have to spend it for all of sort of deferred projects?
That's a very good question, and there was a lot of discussion about that in the combined meeting of the Finance Committee and the board that we had about that. The interest that is earned on the investments, whatever type of investment they might be, whether they are CDs or treasuries, or even if they are equities, and equities go up and down like this, so you can't even really get an accurate projection of what interest or gains might be from those types of investments. But when it comes to reserve funds, your reserves are designed to include the interest for the increase in value of your reserves over time. So the reserves are not designed to be drawing off the interest to be included in the operating budget. And I know in the past, there's been a line item, non-operating income or non-operating revenue, which was interest from the reserves. But that is interest that was never taken from the reserves and put into the operating fund. And so during that meeting, I used an unfortunate term. I said funny money. It's not really funny money. It's the absence of funds. It's money that's not there, that's not being transferred from the reserves into the operating fund so that it can be spent on operating expenses. So a cooperative could certainly decide to do that, siphon off the interest from your reserve accounts and put it into your operating account, but then you would be robbing Peter to pay Paul, because then you would have to be funding your reserve accounts even more to make up for the interest that you've been siphoning off. So it just goes like this. It doesn't make sense. It's what I guess I would better label ghost money. It's money that's in the budget as revenue, but it's not really there. There's nothing to be used because it's not being transferred in.
Dick, you have a follow-up, because that's your issue you've been talking to us about. We understand that, so you got a follow-up.
Well, yeah, I'll pick up where she left off. My name is Dick Hansen. I'm a member of the Finance Committee. Kathy Hansen's our chair. We have 7 members. And I have 2 things that I think should be of interest to the residents, the members here. One is interest. This year, 2023, $175,000 of interest income is included in our operating budget. So that's $175,000 that the members don't have to pay. That's the revenue, that's cash. And we don't have an accurate number of a projection in 2024, primarily because we don't know when the major funds are going to be dispersed. We're going to be spending, I don't know, $1 million on the engineering problems on the North Plaza. And if if $500,000 is paid in January, that's $500,000 that we don't have to invest and earn interest on. If it's in December, we basically got it all year. The effect, my best guesstimate is that our interest income for 2024 will be somewhere in the area of $300,000. It's up from $175 for 2 principal reasons. One, interest rates have gone way up. Treasury bills now are paying 5%. A year ago, they were paying 1%. And number 2, we have more money to invest. We have built cash reserves. plus we're going to get $600,000 from National Cooperative Bank, which is part of our, when we took out our mortgage, they retained the money and paid us as we paid bills. There's $600,000 left over that isn't needed. So that will be invested and earning, 5%, $30,000 a year. The effect of not including interest income in the operating budget, you're going to pay an 8% increase in fees. If we put $300,000 in revenue from interest income, that would be down in the range of 4%. So that's one thing you should be aware of. I've been on the finance committee off and on for 10 years, and we've always budgeted interest income in the operating budget. And Mitch and I don't see eye to eye on that, and I'm not claiming I'm right and he's wrong, but this year we made the change to not include it, and that's costing us about 4%. The second thing I want to mention, when I'm an accountant. I'm accustomed to seeing comparative numbers. In other words, here, whatever the budget is there, if you don't know if that's an increase or a decrease, it's difficult to ask questions. And both we on the finance committee and the board, there were some frustrations because we were not provided comparative numbers. If anybody had any questions of me, I'll be happy to take them.
There, for anybody who would wish to have a copy of the budget, there is last year's numbers compared to this year's numbers on this budget.
May I just make a comment about what you're saying with copies of this and copies of that? Marcia Stevens, by the way. Because you talked about the amount of office supply money, and when we're new residents, and I was overwhelmed by the papers that are coming to our place. And I would think that many of us are on some sort of listserv that Andrea would have. I'm just saying, if you could send some of these things out via email as attachments rather than hard copy this, hard copy that, it would be really helpful for some of us.
Can I
Not
just chime
everyone,
in?
I understand.
That's
not
what
everyone.
Jacob is working on. That's
Okay.
what Jacob is working on.
Yeah, we're moving.
Okay.
We're moving in that direction. And so we've kind of put our first foot forward on the yellow brick road of trying to help the cooperative come into a period where everything is not paper. And we really are starting on that process. For a property this size with a variety of different levels of understanding of this and technology, and whether everybody has the technology to do this, and how to split things apart and make sure that everybody's needs are taken care of. That's something that's going to take months, if not a couple of years, really, to fully figure that out. But we are moving down that road.
Okay, so, yes, I do. First of all, thank you to the chair of the finance committee for speaking up and speaking out. We have to remember that the staff works. I know he is. Oh, he's a member, he's not the chair. We have to remember who works for who. The staff works for us, right? The staff works for us. The staff works for us as members. So I'm sorry that you were not taken more seriously when you made your recommendation about using investment interest to offset some of these increases. Whatever, it is what it is. But what I wanted to comment about especially was, having run a co-op myself for 11 years, well, first, thank you to the Finance Committee, thank you to the board, thank you to the staff for all the work it takes to put a budget of $8 million together. It's huge. Having said that, I see waste here. I really do. There was someone in my unit today to help me with some plumbing. And case in point, when I turn on my spigot in the shower, there is no control over the water pressure. It's constantly on. It's constantly, the bathtub water is rising as I'm taking a shower. And so I'm thinking, wow, we're wasting water here because we don't have a different kind of cold water, hot water, two different knobs. It's one. We're wasting a lot of water. Water is very expensive, very expensive. That's a separate issue. But when you were going through the budget, Mitch, I saw the replacement reserve. Before I moved here, I read the documents, and I saw, this has nothing to do with your committee, but I saw that it was approved. Since you mentioned that there's so many co-ops going up around us, we have to stay competitive in how we look, and we're not looking good physically. I can tell you that. I'm embarrassed about our lobby. I'm embarrassed about our staircase. I'm embarrassed about the second floor. It's, I know funds were approved for redecorating, and I would really like to know why it hasn't been done.
It's in process.
That's what I hear. That's what I hear. For 6 months, it's in process. But I don't see anything being done.
Well, Barb, first of all, back to Dick, I appreciate your comments as well. And as Dick said, we have differing opinions, and I maintain what I explained earlier as I was addressing the question over this way about taking interest from reserves and putting it into the operating fund. The point that was made is that there was $175,000 that was budgeted in the current year's budget for 2023 for interest income, and that money, or that line item of income, is in the operating budget. But the fact of the matter is that there has been no interest income that has come into the operating account as authorized by either the Finance Committee or the board to be available for use for operating expenses. And I don't recommend that would occur. So that's why I say it's ghost money. It's there, it's budgeted, but it's not available to be used. To Barb's concerns, I'll take a big, deep breath here. There are, I agree with you on a lot of what you said there. We are working really hard, and we are asking yours and everybody's patience and understanding to try and put into place the things that need to be done, either to avoid waste, and I will agree with Barb, there is waste here. I think there is significant waste here, but you can't just eradicate that immediately. It takes a lot of changes. It takes a lot of changes through education, through training, through changing systems so that funds aren't wasted. I don't like waste. Does the place look as nice as it could in all aspects? It doesn't, but that's why we're undergoing these processes, and you, having run a cooperative as well, understand the process that a cooperative goes through to do those kinds of things, and passing through committees and having vendors come in and doing presentations, and then going to the board. And it is a lot of work, and I'm not making excuses, but I'm making an excuse. that it just takes time, and we are moving forward on these things.
Barb, just one correction and one comment. Dick has made his piece known, and I'm taking Dick, I'm trying to learn about that. We're taking that very seriously. He was not dismissed. We've got a difference of how we're going to do it, but no, he was not dismissed, that's for sure. I'm learning from that guy. And secondly, sitting right next to you is the chair of the Lobby and Balcony Commission, and this board meeting at the end of November, we're getting the first pack to hire the folks who will manage the project of the lobby and the upper balcony for us. That's on our table for November's board meeting. So I just want, very good. I just want to make sure you understand that. So, because let's be careful when we say things, make sure we're accurate in what we're saying, all right?
Could I add a few words there too? I'm new to the board. I went on the board in May, and I have been very, very impressed with the work that the board has to do, the work that Mitch has done on putting this budget together, and the meetings that we had with the Finance Committee and the board together to discuss these issues. And I think I can say that the 9 people on the board, the 7 on the Finance Committee, are 16 very dedicated people who put in loads of hours for this budget. And I think that you should know we did have comparisons. We looked at last year's budget and compared it to what was proposed for this year. And when we came in with the 10.4% increase, we went through that budget so carefully to look at how we could reduce that down to 8%. And it wasn't easy, but we did it by deferring, as he said. And I think that the decision to use the interest income the way that we're using was by the board. The board made the decision to use it that way, and that looks like the best way going forward. So I want to thank Mitch for all his work on that, and I want to thank the Finance Committee for all their work. And I've been an on-site newbie working with the other board members to achieve this budget, and I think it's going to be a very good budget going forward.
John Ramsey, I noticed that the income and the expense for the York Room is the same, $886,900. Is that correct? I noticed that the income line and the expense line for the York Room is the same at $886,900. My first question is that what you expect, and is that by design?
Well, yes. Is it by design? Yes. The revenue is projected to cover their expenses. It's not developed to be losing money, and it's not developed to be earning money as well.
Thank you. My next.
2024 revenue is greater than 2023.
Okay. My next question is about on the York Room. There's a line that says resident dining room fees, $567,000. What is the source of those fees? So does a portion of that money come out of each person's monthly payment? Okay.
It's included in your monthly payment, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
It's part of the member fee. That's right.
Thank you.
And just so you know, friends, as I said to you at the board forum the other night, this next year is going to be crucial for how we think about that dining room. That's one of the biggest things in the budget, and we have to think through that. All right, we got a question back there, Carol.
Yeah, I would like to request that the budget and also the new 5-year plan be put out on our membership portal. In that way, those of us who have computers could access it that way, and those who do not could still get the paper copies from the office.
Thank you, Carol. By the way, I've asked Mitch to do something for the board and the finance committee to take us through and do some more teaching about that 30-year long-range plan. He suggested we should open it to everyone. Would you be interested in coming for a primer on the 30-year plan? Anybody interested in that? Let me see. All right, we want him to do that as a teaching tool, so you all know what you're invested in here and what we're looking at. Yep. Other questions? You bet.
I'm a very conservative person, and I divide, when I look at a capital expenditure, if it's infrastructure, air conditioning, boiler room, I want it good. I'm not high on cosmetics. I want it to look good, but I'm not for spending big money for beauty.
All right, thank you, sir. All right.
When is this increase supposed to take effect?
1st of January. 1st of January, that's right. All right, yes, ma'am.
Well, I just wanted to say that I don't really look forward to paying 8% more, but I support you greatly, and I think we really needed it. Thank you. And it's still very economical to live here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and I
right.
certainly don't. I don't enjoy putting together a budget that has an 8% increase either. Well, let me just to lighten things up a little bit more here as we before we depart. A couple more quiz questions, and again, these quiz questions are from your current York Times. There is one committee here that has been advertised in the York Times that wants everybody to keep their shoes clean. What committee is that? Let me call on somebody. Yes, sir.
Fitness.
That is correct. Fitness committee. Rich, would you mind running that back there?
Who's the winner?
And one more. There is and please don't shout out the answer, raise your hands. I'm going to try and call on people I haven't called on before. But who is the member who is currently living here that has lived here for the longest period of time? Raise your hand. Yes, ma'am. Edith. You are, what's her last name? You are correct. Michael, would you help me out there in the yellow? Well, thank you for coming, everybody. I appreciate your attendance. Michael has a quick announcement, a quick something.
Question and answer. All right, so I just wanted to do a quick question and answer. If anybody has any maintenance questions that I can help you with real quick, think about that, but I do have a couple of things I want to touch on, and that's it. As Mitch alluded to, the north side of the building, starting tomorrow morning, it's going to sound like a big vacuum. So they will be vacuuming up the dirt on the north side of the building to do some water repair. It's a new way to do things when you want to, so you don't have to dig around pipes. So you actually vacuum up the dirt, you don't dig it up. So it's going to sound like a big vacuum, that's what it is, and it should just be for tomorrow for a couple hours. And then secondly, just before I came in here, I was able to confirm, everybody knows that we're doing a fitness center refresh, right? Okay, all the colors are in the fitness center, and they're pinned up on the wall. You can see the new carpet, you can see the wall colors. And the fitness center is going to be closed starting December 6th in the afternoon, and they should finish that work up on December 15th, opening up the fitness center back on the 16th. So any other questions anybody have for maintenance? Any good? Thank you.
I co-opted you today.
Very good. Just a word to you new folks. The Veep cash, not cans, that was an alliteration. We'd like checks. You don't have to worry about cash, but whatever. Checks will work just fine. And don't forget the gift for Ben or the card for Ben. Mitch, thank you for your presentation. Thanks, everybody, for being here.